starts now.
This podcast episode is about, well, podcasts, which is somewhat outside the parameters of my playlist. I typically talk about Rush and other areas of music, politics, football, and Star Trek and other areas of cinematic endeavor. But as I'm preparing a book about podcasts, I thought I would use this opportunity to share some of the content that I thought was kind of interesting. When looking at the history of podcasts, we really have to acknowledge that it all started with a microphone. Or as some might argue, it all started with the Greeks. The ancient Greeks were known for many contributions to Western civilization. Among them were the use of public forums and amphitheaters for a variety of purposes, including speeches, debates, theater, and oratory. But once a lot of people assemble into a single forum or amphitheater, one quickly discovers the need to increase the volume of one's voice. They dealt with this issue in 5th century BC Greece by developing theater masks with horn-shaped mouth openings that amplified the voice of the actor using the mask. It ended up looking like a customized megaphone. Essentially, it was a microphone. It transmitted the sound from the source to the listeners. Throughout history, we have examples of how this communications technology developed and the impact it has made on our social interactions. In 1665, the English physicist Robert Hooke invented the lover's telephone, which was made of a stretched wire with a cup attached to each end. Many of us know this today as the tin can telephone. In 1861, the German inventor Johann Philipp Reis developed a sound transmitter. That system was later refined by Alexander Graham Bell, which used a liquid transmitter whereby the diaphragm was attached to a conductive rod in an acid solution. All of these technologies transmitted the human voice from one place and in one form to another. The 1870s brought the invention of the carbon microphone, developed independently by David Edward Hughes and Thomas Edison. The carbon microphone is basically the early prototype of today's microphones. That prototype became the microphone used in a first ever radio broadcast in 1910, one that featured a performance in the New York Metropolitan Opera House. There have been massive advancements in the technology since then, especially with the advent of radio and television, both at the production end as well as in the realm of consumer engagement. Today, microphones are used wherever sound needs to be picked up and converted into an electrical format. Microphones are an essential part of any audio recording system. The microphone picks up the sound and converts it into electrical energy that can be processed by electronic amplifiers and audio processing systems. Podcasters and gamers regularly use desktop microphones, almost today as if by second nature, usually without thinking of the origin of this thing. And almost everyone carries around a microphone in their pocket or purse. It's an essential feature of a smartphone. So the podcast doesn't find its roots in iTunes or GarageBand or even Audacity. In a somewhat indirect way, we have ancient Greece to thank for the podcast. Visit stephenchristiansen.ca for more episodes. This podcast is available on all streaming platforms, including Anchor, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and Google. I'm Stephen Christiansen. Thanks for listening.
Production of Stephen Christensen. Podcast complete.